Halayim no Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Harakar Kudash Mama, double honors to the elder apostles of great Muslim, double honors to our elder apostle of her one by Yashar down in the lines and camp. Salutations to the Akim that puts in the truth, sincerity, truth, and peace and blessing to the men, women, and children that believe in the name Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. I am Khanak Sa'an by Yashar from the lines of the Yashar camp. This is another Lions and News and Prophecy. Lord, will this lesson edify and serve its purpose for the hope of elect ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, this is in continuation of the lesson that I did the other day when it spoke on. So I can real quick trying to set some stuff up, and hopefully I can remember um to put the the a link to our Lions and Sit Down page in the description box so I can get everybody to subscribe to that one so we can start going live on that one. For some reason, it's not allowing us to go live. Which I thought I went live on it before, but maybe not. Um, but uh, the video that I did the other day, or was it yesterday? Or was it? Well, maybe I don't know. But basically, it says it's Iran's final warning to America if um the United States doesn't um if the United States doesn't come to an agreement to the terms that um Iran wants, then it said um, it said accept peace or face failure. And this is one of the articles I was reading before I read that article where it says Iran says it's ready to teach a lesson if United States launches new attacks. See that? See that? So, matter of fact, let me do this. Hold on. I'm just setting some stuff up real quick. All right. So now let's get into it. You know how we start things off. This is um this is Second Ezra chapter 15, verse 1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written on paper, for they are faithful and true. All right. And like, you know, without this being without all the facts being explained to you as they are, not going according to the narrative that the United States is trying to paint. If you go to the according to prophecy and the word of Yahweh Shemal Shai, you would know, like, to write this down, simplify it on paper. This is just going into saying, let the weak say that I'm strong, and no longer letting America have its hegemony and throw its weight around in the earth. It was all prophesied that this place was going to come down to the dust by Yahweh Shemal Shai. As a matter of fact, um, we can get jiggy with it because of what it says right here. This is Isaiah 47 and 1. It says, Come sit down in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt be no more called tender and delicate. Right. So this place is being brought down. It no longer has is able to throw its weight around like it used to. And sitting in the dust is going to be in a state of confusion, delirious, not knowing where to turn, not knowing what to do. You know, at one point in time, the United States had all the answers for everything, and the majority of that was through oppression and manipulation of war. But now those tactics aren't working anymore, and and yeah. So these other nations are standing up against America. And Iran is really, what I'm saying, the front runner pushing for Russia, because that's who they're backed by. You see that? Um, so with that being said, this is a strategic checking move done on both parts with Iran and Russia. Like, what I'm saying? Russia's telling Iran, in my opinion, like, all right, let them show their whole hand. Let them show they're going to expose themselves. They're going to show all they got. Let them punch themselves out and then start picking them apart. And that's what we're witnessing happening, right? So this is a provocation. They like, do what you do. I dare you. But see, but see, but see, America is not used to being on this side of the puffin because what? Um, let me see. Let me get this. Psalms chapter 10. All right, this is Psalm 10 and 5. It says, his ways are always grievous, that judgments are far above out of his sight. We're talking about Esau. As far as all his enemies, he puffeth at them. And that's what, what I'm saying? That's what they do. They were like, you ain't finna do nothing. You ain't finna do nothing. Now bow down. It says, he has said in his heart, I shall not be moved. I shall never be in adversity. Right? It says, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Right. So but all that mischief and vanity that that Esau's put in the earth through America is going to come back and haunt them. All right. So it says Iran says it's ready to teach a lesson if U.S. launches new strikes. It says what does this say? It says what to know about the Iran war. After President Trump rejects Iran's response to the last U.S. peace proposal and said the ceasefire is on life support, the Speaker of Iran's parliament said the Islamic Republic military is ready to teach a lesson to any aggressor. What is another word for aggressor, oppressor, or hammer? All that lines up with the United States' purpose in the earth. It says U.S. Ambassador Israel Mike The U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, said Tuesday that Israel sent anti-missile batteries and personnel to the UAE to help protect the country from Iranian attacks, underlining a growing defense relationship between the two Middle East countries that has been bolstered by the Iran war. Because when they first initially did the first ceasefire, the UAE started striking Lebanon, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Let me see. Hold on. Jeez. Let me see. All right. It says according to multiple recent reports, there were claims that the UAE carried out or coordinated strikes connected to the conflict after the April 8th ceasefire was announced. See that? Um. But now they're looking for protection from Iran because after the ceasefire was called, they still went out and did some striking. See that? So yeah, there's multiple sources saying that the UAE coordinated military actions after the ceasefire was called on April the 8th. Now they're seeking protection for what they say from hostile military buildup against them from Iran. All right. All right. It says Iran has started openly accusing the UAE of acting as a hostile base for U.S. Israel operations. Right. See, they'll call for a ceasefire, but they'll use small proxy countries like the UAE to still, you know what I'm saying, use military mights. You know what I'm saying? That's just how the devil works, man. All right, it says the cost of the war in Iran has grown to 29 billion. Acting Pentagon's comptroller Jules Hurst said in congressional testimony Tuesday. Secretary Pete Hegseth said last month it was 25 billion, but U.S. officials familiar with international assessments suggest at the time of the war could already have cost to 5 billion. Remember, I said in the last lesson that I said it's approximately costing about $1 billion a day to fight this war. So I said the 25 and 29 billion was only the calculated price of munition that they were using, but the cost of the whole war I said was closer to 60 billion. I said that what was it, Monday or Tuesday when I said that? See that? So it says Israel strikes cars on highway south of Beirut, Lebanon state media says. See, Israel targeted two cars with strikes on Wednesday on a major highway linking Beirut to southern Lebanon. State media reported despite a truce in the war between Israel and Lebanon, the government. Man, listen, come on. Come on. That's what they do, though. That's what they do. Hold on. Let me see. All right. Um, there was another one. I'll just use this one. Just this is all right. So now we all know that 2/3 of our people are gonna conduct themselves after the ways of Esau, right? So this is Second Timothy chapter 3 verse 2. It says, "For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boisterous, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy." Right? See, that sounds like Esau all the way. But it says, Scripture says, the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor. The ways of the wicked seduceth them. All right. It says, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, disputers of those that are good. Right. Traitors, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of Yahweh by Shem Shai. So that's 2/3 of our people being a negative reflection of what they see in front of them, that this system that was built up by Esau. So they become a part of the system because all those things that were named, negative things that are named in that scripture is the foundation of the system that's set up. Right? That's why this is the way society is today. It only teaches you to ponder and harbor the thoughts of negative energy at any given time. You can't even see and look at the good in people because your mind is set up to think about all the bad. Just think about it like this: if somebody cut you off in traffic, right, and it was very abrupt and it pissed you off, and you had to cuss them out, you had to exchange words, you know, you're gonna hold on to that energy. And the next person you see, you like, let me tell you what this motherfucker did to me today, right? Now, let's say the flip side of that happens. Somebody, um, or you were trying to get over, and somebody stopped and let you in, and you know what I'm saying, there was a positive exchange between the two, right, of you, and it was, recently I was going down 95, and there was a truck in front of me it was ahead of me, but to the left lane, and he was trying to get over 2 lanes because it was about to mix his exit. So I seen him put his signal on, so I immediately slowed down and flashed my high beams, right, so he could get over. Man, when he got over, he widened his window down, slowed down just so he could come up next to me just to say thankful. He said thank you about 100 times. He's like, yo, that was some real G shit that you did, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate you being all that, just because I let him over, right? We're not our minds are not trained to think and 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 harbor those type of emotions and in the positive energy. We're only taught to think about the negative things and keep our mind occupied on that. And so that's the mindset of Esau, because those negative things are positive to him, because those are the things that he uses to oppress, right? And 2/3 of our people fall a victim to that way of thinking, to that mindset, and they go to acting as a reflection of Esau instead of acting as a reflection of Yahweh Shem Shai. So now everybody, all these nations in the earth, seeing that negative reflection, seeing the shame of Esau, right? That they've been trying to hide through their philosophies of democracy and using the dollar. Now all that is being exposed, and these other nations are getting tired of it, right? So they see the truce breaking that they do. They see how they call for a ceasefire, and then they give the UAE allegedly some firepower and ammo to go bomb uh, Lebanon. See that? When Lebanon, if I'm not mistaken, was supposed to be added in the ceasefire clause, but I think the United States said no. I said no, no, Lebanon's not. All right. It says Israeli targeted 2 cars. Okay. All right. No. It says the attacks took place near Jahi, about 12 miles south of the capital. Lebanon's national news agency said, without specifically specifying if there were casualties. The, an APF photographer saw a burnt out car in the middle of the road and rescuers carrying a body. See that? They don't care who they attack, man. It says on Saturday, similar strikes targeted 2 other cars in the same area. Israel has kept up airstrikes in Lebanon against the Iran-backed militia group despite the truce since April 17th, aimed at halting the fight. Right. So everything was supposed to be stopped. And Lebanon was initially supposed to be a part of that ceasefire. But they continued to strike Lebanon because they said they had Iranian backed forces that were being housed there. It says on Tuesday, 13 people were killed in attacks on towns in the south, according to Lebanon's health ministry, which said 380 people have been killed since the start of the ceasefire. The ceasefire means no more shooting, but you had 380 people that have been killed since then, unalive. That's crazy. His ways are always grievous, man. But Yahweh Shemel Shai has another thought for him. All right, so now let's get down to like now Trump is supposed to be going to talk to Xi Jinping. All right, but he says he doesn't need Xi Jinping to to he don't need his flock, yeah. Well, here it goes. It says Trump's head to Trump heads to China for high stakes meeting with Xi. Here's what's on the agenda. Washington president headed to China for a highly anticipated summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping, following through with a meeting Mr. Trump delayed due to the war with Iran. Mr. Trump left the White House on Tuesday for the summit and landed in Beijing Wednesday morning, Eastern Daylight Time. Beijing is 12 hours ahead of Washington. Trade will be a major topic for the two leaders, but the tenuous situation in Iran and supply chain bottleneck in the Persian Gulf will be inescapable topics. All right. The president said Monday that they also discussed energy in Taiwan and she is looking to bring Taiwan fully back under Beijing's control without intervention from the United States. How is that going to work? Trump spoke highly of Xi ahead of their meeting. He's a great gentleman. I find him to be an amazing man. The president told reporters on Monday, I have a very good relationship. He said he had a very good relationship with Russia. Russia said, kiss my ass. All right. The president also told reporters in the Oval Office last week, I find him to be a tremendous guy, and he and we get along well, and you see how we do. We do a lot of business with China, making a lot of money. We're making a lot of money. His vocabulary is trash. But anyway, um, let me get back to the story. But but what does that have to do with the cost of tea in China? That blockade that America's doing, and I want to say that in China ran a ship past the blockade, right? When they first set the blockade up. I don't know how true that is. I don't have any sources on that, but I had an article, but I somehow I forgot to save it. But um and 80% of the export of oil out of Iran goes to China, which makes up about 20% of what they get worldwide. See that? So something's gonna have to be talked about the war in Iran and what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. But Trump's so high in pride, like it's I'm I'm anticipating on how this meeting is gonna go. They should have already had it. Today's Thursday. I haven't seen any news articles on it. I'm gonna look forward to today and see what comes up. But I'm curious on what the next step is gonna be because you know um, the same things that he's saying about China, uh, president, he said about Putin. But then he came back. He talked about how great his relationship was with Putin before he got into office, and he said he could end the war in Ukraine in 45 minutes. He just have to go over there and talk to Putin. That never happened. Putin was like, "Fuck you." You see? So be on the lookout for what's going to happen after this meeting with President Trump and Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping, how you say his name? But in the meantime, pay attention to this. This is Jeremiah 50:9. It says, For lo, I will rise and cause to come up against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as a mighty expert man. None of them shall return in vain. So this place is gonna ultimately that's gonna be the end all tell all where all 200 million missiles start to hit this place. But this place is gonna be targeted and struck first before that happens. Somebody is going to set it off and start the trend of shooting missiles at America, man. All right, Lord willing, this lesson to edify the service purpose for the hopeful elect, the ones that truly believe in the name of Yahweh Shem Shai. With that, I'd like to say, Call Halayim, La Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Harakak Badash, Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostle of the great millstone, double honors to our elder apostle as well, her one by Yasha Allah down here in the lines in camp. Salutations to the archon that puts in the truth, sincerity, true, and peace and blessing to the men and women of truth that believe in the name of Yahweh Shem Shai. Shalom.